All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful lake out there pushing this word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds. In the name of Yahweh Bashem Al Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners, whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right. So I just want to go into a various topics, dealing with a few things that's going on, because one thing about prophecy, what we have to understand that there are always a lot of moving parts, okay, when it comes to prophecy. And when you look at how Esau runs the earth, he does a lot of unnecessary things, to cause confusion. And the way to stay on track, okay, with all these moving parts that the devil, because this devil has just a lot of unnecessary, moving parts when you go into his politics, and he does a lot of vain things or empty things to cause mass confusion. The way Esau, keeps people confused is that he just has so much going on that um, most people just give up with trying to keep up with how this devil moves because he has things moving all over the place, man. And a lot of things are smoke screens to cause confusion. And the thing that keeps us on point with the true narrative of what's going on is to filter everything through the prophecy. Filter all these moving parts through prophecy, man. Okay? So when keeping up with the war, when keeping up with, the economy crashing and all these, different articles and news that this devil has going on, dealing with current events. And a lot of people, they utilize, all these headlines for clickbait. It's another thing that's popular amongst, these different news outlets, is they use certain headlines and certain talking points for clickbait. So there's a lot of information that has to be filtered through. And as of late, I find myself throwing more information to the wayside because it's just, regurgitation of the same rhetoric, fear mongering to try to, get views, okay? And it's not biblically based, you know. So when we watch and we report on these different things, on the different happenings, within the news, all right, we have to make sure that we always filter things, through the scriptures, through prophecy. The scriptures gives us the narrative, the true narrative of these prophecies as they unfold. Okay. And also, using reliable sources, men that are not biased, towards Western media, because Western media, they spin things, okay, for the favor of Western propaganda. There's a lot of Western propaganda, when it comes to the happenings, all right, when it comes to what's really going on in the news, so we want to make sure that we're not re-reporting Western propaganda, because the West, all right, they pick, the certain villains who they want to be the bad guy, and they pick, okay, who they want to be the good guy, not based off facts, but based off their agenda. Western media, the small hats can do no wrong. They're always defending themselves, man. That's part of the politics of war. Okay, and Western media, America is always defending the good guy, which is the small hats. Okay, America is heavily involved in all these different conflicts that we see going on, but they play the background as if they're just sending aid, but they be hands on with these things, man. And what we're seeing, okay, with Russia, okay, the latest because the talking point now is this attack on strike, okay, that Ukraine did inside of Russia. So how the Western propaganda spin this as if because Russia got red lines, and the red not tolerate from another nation. So Russia got certain red lines, and Ukraine, okay, using those longer range missiles inside of Russia was going across a Russian red line. All right. Now, so if you looking at it from just Western propaganda, it's like, well, we crossed Russia red line and they didn't immediately do nothing. So it's a play to make Russia seem weak in the news. Okay, it's like, okay, we cross your red line. What you gonna do about it? And the West, all right. One thing about the West, the small hats, okay, America, especially the small hats, but in the West in general, they know how to do just enough so they can report on it, but really not cross a red line like that. Not to do enough to provoke, all right, immediate retaliation. So what you will have, is the West to do something, all right, and then they'll repeat it in the news over and over again, all right, as if they did something great, like the whole country of Russia is on fire now, you know, and it'll make it seem like, okay, Russia said they was gonna do this, it didn't happen, and now you have this propaganda like Russia is weak or Iran is weak, and they do that, and it's the politics of war, okay, and what we have to understand when you look at this whole Russia and Ukraine thing, Russia is ultimately annihilating Ukraine, all right, annihilating Ukraine. Give you an analogy. What NATO is doing, with helping Ukraine, it's like Russia, which is the bear. Imagine someone getting mauled by a bear, limbs getting tore off, and you have someone that's far away that's just throwing rocks at the bear, that's throwing pebbles at the bear. Okay? That's what's happening, with these so-called attacks on Russia. Russia is absolutely mauling Ukraine. Okay? And these little pebbles that's being thrown at Russia, okay, is not affecting the outcome because it's all about battlefield outcomes. And what this little cute airstrike, well, not airstrike, missile strike did, okay, it crossed the red line, but it's not affecting the battlefield outcomes. Okay, Russia is having its way with Ukraine, and those six missiles, which six, all right, and the number six, all right, those six missiles, okay, don't affect the battlefield outcome between Russia and Ukraine. All right. But it's cute to talk about in the news as making Russia look weak, which at the end of the day, what does prophecy say? That the Lord is going to stir up the Medes. Now, this is stirring things up. All right. Don't get it twisted. All right. This is poking the bear to react. But one thing I learned about following, the geopolitics, these nations are playing the long game. It's going to be the Lord that's going to speed these things up. But these nations are playing the long game. Okay. And I was watching the Hunger Games, Mockingbird, the first Mockingbird. And when the capital, which is the capital, was pretty much like, you can equate them to like the elites going against the outcasts or, the have-nots of society. So you had the rebellion, against the regime. And the capital came to the rebellion and they started doing airstrikes. And they was looking at what the capital was striking, and they were striking empty fields. And the reason they were striking empty fields because they didn't know where, okay, the launch pads were at. And the rebellion was finna do a counter strike, but then they were like, nah, we just gonna absorb this. Because once, see, in the war is so technological now. Once you launch from a certain site, or once you uh use missile defense system, okay, now the enemy knows where your missile defense systems are, and they're getting more intel how they work. And once you launch an offensive from certain launch pads, now they know where those launch pads are and how they work, more intel on how they work. Okay. So what Western propaganda push if someone is being weak, okay, that's that nation being reserved because they know when they go, they only really got one time to go before they expose where certain things are. Okay, if that's making sense, because this is very high tech war. Okay, and once you expose yourself, all right, now you're making yourself more vulnerable for a more devastating counter against you. So so what we're seeing with Iran and Russia is they're being reserved and just getting intel, which Russia is dominating Ukraine, but for the long game, dealing with Iran, you know, Hezbollah, they're getting a lot of intel, okay, of how these small hats work, because the small hats just been so gung ho on the offense. Okay, this is why Hezbollah is so good at countering the small hats, because they know everything they're gonna do. All right, Iran, okay, pretty much has the Iron Dome figured out because they've been sending between those Iranian proxies, which Hamas and all these different proxies, they've been sending rockets at those small hats for years, getting intel on how their Iron Dome works. That's why when Iran does a missile strike on those small hats, majority of those missiles get through because they know how it works from years and years of getting intel, all right, of how their Iron Dome works, the capabilities, man, the weak points. Okay, so that's why I didn't respond to these six missiles that shot, which five of them was shot down, as supposedly, and one of them got through, had some type of effect on the supply chain, which this is war, it's gonna be a back and forth. Okay. But really, like I say, that's irrelevant to the battlefield outcome. Okay. But it plays a factor in provoking, okay, Russia. Okay. But just know these things are calculated. All right. And these nations are being reserved because they know dealing with the West, especially dealing with America, you don't want to expose too much. And when they go, they going to go. Ezekiel 38, come forth with all thy bands. Okay. When Russia go, they going to go. When Iran go, they going to go. Okay. It ain't going to be nothing cute. Right now, we seeing they're filling each other out, getting intel. Okay. But now Ukraine is being devastated. Okay. But a lot of these other things that we're seeing happening, all right, they're filling each other out and getting intel. Okay. So the thing is to always stick to the narrative of prophecy. All right. And remember, according to prophecy, um, these EU nations eventually are going to turn on America. Obadiah 1 and 7. All right. They're going to eventually turn on America. So we have to understand that when Russia start getting active with NATO, it's gonna cause a schism in these EU nations, man. Okay, because it's one thing to look at the bear, because Ukraine is like a stepchild to the EU. So it's one thing to see, okay, someone that you really don't care about like that getting mauled by a bear. But when that bear is on you, it's a different story. Okay, and there's gonna be some schisms in the EU. Okay, as it says in Daniel. Okay, partly weak, partly strong. Okay, it's gonna be some schisms when Russia start getting more active and getting at these EU nations, and these EU militaries are weak as water. Okay, they not ready for the pressure that Russia is going to apply. Okay, the Medes. You see, so you have all right, Joe Biden leaving office, going back to politics of war. Okay, so he pretty much wants to leave chaos in the lap of Donald Trump. Okay, you gotta remember the elites are divided. You gotta think about Esau and his. Look at all the Esau's empires, the Grecian Empire. Soon as Alexander died, it was a brawl for it all for who was going to be, that next guy, that main character of the Grecian Empire. It split, four ways. All right. And you had those generals, all right, constantly at war, mainly the Ptolemies and the uh uh shit. How can I forget that? Mainly the Ptolemies and uh God damn, he told me lots of man. Solution, I don't know how I forget that. But mainly the Ptolemies and the solution, which that's what Antiochus, the line Antiochus came out of. But you had constant infight between Esau when he had, when he was a superpower with the Greeks and when he was the Romans. Rome was always at civil war. So these devils always went to war with each other over their own empire. Okay. So we have to understand that there's discrepancies between the elites, and you have different elites backing different militaries of the earth. Okay, and there's infighting on every level. From the shadow government, the elite bankers that we don't see, to the elite billionaires. Okay, to these puppet politicians, there's still infighting and strife. Okay, so for Joe Biden to do this, okay, allow these things to happen, pretty much leave a mess in the lap of Trump, which Trump is, if we remember his first presidency, he was he was hard on the NATO, which now they're talking about leaving NATO. Trump talking about America might step out of NATO, man. Okay, leave NATO to defend itself, but he's pro small hat, which when you go into prophecy, what the least of the flock shall draw them out. So America is going to come to the aid of those small hats, man. Okay, Ukraine and those EU nations, okay, they're going to be pretty much left to fend for themselves, okay, and get ran through. All right, and they're going to feel abandoned by America, which started all this shit, because eventually these EU nations are going to turn on America, man. And that's a scenario, just putting scenarios out there based on the narrative of the prophecies, man. Okay, so what we're seeing now, all right, which Russia's not gonna go all out, okay, and just go crazy with the NATO over this situation, all right, because you got to think, like I say, these nations understand that when they go, the Russia, Iran, these nations know when they go, they got to go, okay. They'll do certain things for deterrence, okay, but when they, all right, when the Lord speeds this thing up and really put it in their minds to go, they gonna go. Those Carmanians, which is Iran, the Dragons of Arabia, that alliance. Okay, so we're just seeing, provocations that's going to lead, okay, to the evil thought being put in the minds of the Medes, man. Okay, but we can't think of it as because see what it's like if you have two people fighting and one person is just beating the brakes off the other person. Okay, but then the person that's losing, he get a slap in. Okay, but let's get it like this: two people fight, so one person is beating the brakes off the other, but the homeboy is over to the side and he's recording. All right, so his homeboy get a slap in. Okay, and his homeboy that's recording, all he does is edit the part where his homeboy got a slap in and try to make that the narrative. And that's what Western media does, man. And that's why people are completely oblivious to the reality and the situation of this war. Okay, Ukraine population was at 34 million before the war. It's like at 19 million now. Okay, there's numbers circulating that anywhere from 700,000 to over 1 million troops have died. Okay, you have pictures of Ukrainian men fleeing in the mountains trying to leave so they won't be drafted. Okay, but then you listen to Western media and they'll say Russia has lost 7,000 men. Nah, man, Russia got so many people signing up for the military that it's a waiting list now. Russian military has doubled. Going back to Revelation 20, where it says, Gog and Magog gather to battle, whose number is the sand of the sea. Russian military has doubled since this Ukraine situation. Okay, but if you listen to Western media, it's like Russia's losing men. Those North Korean troops that are coming to Russia, that's because Russia losing men. Them nigga lying. Okay, Russia and Korea, which goes into what? The kings of the East. Okay, those are the part of the kings of the East making the alliance, man. China is prepping, all right, to aid Iran if there's a full back and forth. If there's a full blown war, when there's a full blown war between those small hats and Iran, okay, and America getting involved, China is already making preparations to aid Russia as they aid Iran because China depends on their Russian, okay, that mean that Iranian oil to power its economy. Okay, there's oil refineries and oil facilities, oil drilling, okay, facilities in Iran that only, okay, produce oil for China, specifically for China. Okay, China is too invested to sit on the sideline. All right, so Iran and these small hats gonna be the focal point. That's gonna be the startup for all out war in their region, which we're in war now because it can't go back. It can't de-escalate. Trump might come in and make, cause some things to happen. To seem like he's establishing peace and, you know, but things can't go back. It's too much that been done. There's too many preparations that's been done. Okay, so it's only going to escalate and go forward. You see, so when we look at these things, just know, all right, that these nations in their mind, they're trying to play the long game. And there's a lot of politics of war. There's a lot of strategy, being played. Okay. There's a lot of propaganda from the West to make it seem as if they just, dominate when they're not. Okay. Small hats are getting their ass handed to them at the border of Hezbollah. Okay. They have no answer for Iranian missiles. Okay, and the Houthi rebels are still being a pest to them in the Red Sea. And Hamas is not defeated in Gaza. So all these military goals that the small hats went into is is these conflicts with, all these military goals and what Benjamin Netanyahu say he was going to do. They've achieved none of them. They've just deleted a lot of civilian, mostly women and children. Okay, and Russia is completely in control with this situation of with them in Ukraine. Okay, and the reason why Russia is moving like they're moving, okay, because those Ukrainian people are basically Russians. Okay, and the people of Ukraine look at Putin as a liberator from the tyranny of Zelensky and their Western and their puppet Western government of Ukraine. Okay, so we just putting things in perspective. As we look at these things play out, you see something happen and you can think, okay, you know, next week, Russia gonna wild out like, nah, it don't work like that. These things, it's a build up, you know, and really understanding, okay, the significance of these things that's being reported, and a lot of things are getting exaggerated, and there's a lot of things being downplayed, man. You know, so we'll keep watching, and when there's significant escalation, hey, we'll get into it, okay. But what we're seeing now is more political than actual um uh things that determine military outcome. Okay, it's more political right now. So we're gonna keep seeing politics of war. It's infighting. With the elites, the super rich, and these puppet politicians. There's infighting on every level. Okay, and we're just seeing this man's kingdom being brought down. And this is what he's always done. All right, to say the Greeks, the Romans, it was always infighting. All right, from the top down. Okay, that will weaken them. Okay, as a kingdom. Okay, matter of fact, I end it here since the brother got it. It's the brother uh, uh it's the brother GMS Tyler Doc Bun and Howard the 144K says Hebrews 4:12 said Luke 11:17. It said, but he knowing their thoughts said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and the house divided against a house falleth. Man, these Edomites are divided. What direction you want to go with the NWO? Okay, who's going to be the next, superpower of this NWO? There's a lot of division, and we're seeing a house, all right, imploding on itself. Okay, and it's just going to usher in your house shot, you know, at the same time those nukes are shot off. Okay, they just come clear the board with these devils, man. Okay, so this is what we at. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of politics of war. You know, so as I said, we'll watch these things and see, how they play out and report, as needed. Okay. But that's the point, Lord wills, you brothers, all right, and you sisters was edified once again, you know, give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Hashem, Kakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards young brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect Shalom.